Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Wright. I work here for the Los Angeles chapter of the American Institute of Architects, and it is our pleasure to have the founder of Archistar and his colleague here to present. I'd like to welcome Dr. Ben Coorey and beloved David Hunt to this conversation. But before
Don't
we
give
do
him the
that,
doctor title.
yeah, before we do that, I want to just say for everyone on this call, thank you so much for joining us. We will have a repeat session next week. And if any of you want to join that repeat session, we can also take a deeper dive on this conversation. But I also want to recognize Archistar as a presenting sponsor of our recent 10th annual Design for Dignity conference. And with that, Archistar really stepped up and helped support AIA Los Angeles during this initiative that we have been doing for so long, trying to address the ongoing housing crisis. And of course, that ongoing housing crisis was made worse with these recent tragic wildfires. And as a response to these wildfires, state of California, County of LA, several nonprofits have stepped up and have supported the ability of Archistar to offer their services and to really connect with the architecture and design community. So with that in mind, AIA Los Angeles wanted to create a forum to really not only help Archistar present what they're working on, but serve as a portal here to answer any questions or go deeper into the conversation in general, especially as AI becomes a more and more important tool with regards to architecture and design. So with that, I would love to have Dr. Ben Coorey and also David Hunt share their screen and also do some introductions, and we will get started with the presentation right now. And everyone, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, and we will be fielding questions as we come along. So thank you. Dr. Ben Coorey, welcome.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone for joining on this. And thanks, Will and the team, for organizing this webinar. I think it's going to be a good session for you to just demystify and understand what is happening here and how it all works, because we've launched this up. We're getting a lot of submissions come through, which is great to see. I'm not sure if anyone on the call has actually submitted up, but this is a chance to just go behind the scenes and see how it works, so that it just demystifies and tells you kind of what we're trying to do here. And my background, I'm an architect by background, but I'm based out of Sydney, Australia. Spend a lot of my time now in North America. We do a lot of work in the US and in Canada. We've got an office now in Culver City. David Hunt, who heads up our international efforts, he's in the Culver City office now. I'm in Sydney. But we, our real goal with this was building this technology. I studied architecture, but I did 4 degrees, and I finished with a PhD in 3D generative building design. And the whole point of that was, could you use technology to streamline the process of design, and could you start to use rules to help with concept design? And I think I finished that PhD over 10 years ago. You're now seeing like 1 million startups in this space of like this generative concept design, and what can you do, and how can you rapidly iterate. I think where we kind of moved to from 3D generative design, and that's still part of what we do, and it's available in Autodesk Forma and a whole bunch of ways you can access it. We moved into, because we were digitizing rules and planning rules to design buildings, could we use that to check designs for compliance, to make sure that you're complying with the rules? And we found this is a major pain point, that whenever we talk to any city around the world, whenever we talk to any architect, whenever we talk to any developer, this back and forth on the permit workflow, it's painful. And the reason why it's painful is that when you submit in your drawing set, your every design is unique, which is great. Creative, unique. Every site is unique. The conditions are unique, and every city that you submit to have got unique rules. So things may apply or they may not apply. So quite often you don't necessarily know the format that it needs to be in for the city to review, what information you need to put through. And on the city side, you know, when they get in every unique submission, they're looking at these, and the first part is like just pulling up the drawings and trying to understand where's the information located, you know, how have they set this out, where am I looking? So you'll see there's a lot of back and forth between the city and the architect and the applicants. A lot of that is because there's missing information, or they can't find information, or something is non-compliant. And that can come down to interpretation. That can come down to the way things are measured. And, you know, there's often a miscommunication here. So what we've done at Archistar and what we're doing for eCheck, it's pretty simple in concept. And all it is before you submit into the city or the county, this is a pre-check. So it's like you run it through here, it gives you ticks and crosses, and it shows you actually on the drawings how things are measured and how those results are calculated. I'm going to show you today how that works, so you can just see under the hood of what this would look like and what results you're going to get. The result is that when you run it through this, it surfaces up all the information just in time in the right spot, so that it makes the reviewer, the plan checker on the other side, their life a lot easier. And in the meantime, as you're doing that, if you do pick up any issues with it, like anywhere where you have become non-compliant, you've got a chance to fix it up before you send it. So you get a really quick feedback loop to check it before you submit in. And the goal here is twofold. One, can we reduce the number of back and forth with the city? So if you're doing 1 iteration, 2 iterations, 3 iterations, can we cut that down so there's less iterations between the city and the applicant? And number two, when the plan checker on the other side gets it in the city or the county, can we reduce the time it takes them to run that assessment? And we're already seeing results from other cities and, you know, even LA City, LA County saying that it's 50 to 70% faster to review with one of these reports in their hands. So we really encourage you, if you are submitting in to the city, submitting to the county, run one of these reports, because it's going to make the reviewer's life a lot easier on the other end, and you're going to get a fast track report. So I'm going to switch over to my screen. I'm going to show you how to get set up and how it all works. So give me a second. Okay, here we go. All right, so you should see my screen now. Cool. All right, so the first thing that we're looking at here is the start page. So what you're going to see here is that if you go to LA City or LA County, there's a link to get to where to sign up for Archistar. So it's a free account. Now, it's important that if you are submitting in the Palisades area, you've got to submit in to the right jurisdiction that you're submitting to. So if you're in the Palisades area, you're going to be wanting to sign in and register with LA City. If you're doing to Altadena, and there's a pocket of parcels down at the bottom near the Palisades, you're going to be wanting to submit to LA County. So choosing where you sign up to, and the website here is start.archistar.ai/US/LA City, start.archistar.ai/US/LA County. I can put these in the chat so you've got them. You're going to have to sign up to there. You just sign up with your email address, and then you get access in. What you'll notice up the top here is it'll tell you which municipality you're in. So Los Angeles County, or you could be in LA City. So you'll be in either one. It's important that you're submitting to the right one, because it's going to go to different teams. One will go to the county team, one will go to the city team. What we've done is we've, based on the zoning, we've blocked you submitting from one to the other. So you shouldn't be able to submit to LA City if you're logged into LA County. So if you're getting blocked, it might just be that you've got to switch over to LA City and sign up to the other one. The first thing that we've done in Archistar is that we load in the zoning. So you'll see straight away that we've got all of the zoning loaded in, all the parcels loaded in. So you're bringing these in here, and you're seeing what zone you're in. So the first thing you can do here is you can just start to search your address there, and then, or you could click on a property here. And if you click on a property, what you're going to see is that it will pop up and it's going to tell you the information about that property. So you're going to see the address, the zone that you're in, the lot size, the street frontage, and then you're going to see here the button for eCheck reports. This is where you're going to submit your report. So if you click here, you get options in here. So for LA County, you've got a non-like-for-like rebuild. So this is going to check your design against zoning. Or you've got the like-for-like rebuild, which is if you're trying to build something that is similar to what was previously there, you've got a 10% allowance to exceed what was previously there, and you can move it slightly around the lot. That would be considered a like-for-like rebuild. So you pick either like-for-like or non-like-for-like, depending on what you want to do. If you want to put a completely new house there that's not anything like what you're doing, you would go for the non-like-for-like, and you would go for a much longer list of checks that go through. If I click like-for-like, what you're going to see here is that it starts to detect things from here. So it's going to look here at the zone that it's in. You're going to have to fill in what type of lot it is. In this case, it's an interior lot, but there are different rules if it's a corner lot, through lot. So we're going to pick interior lot. And then you're looking at the main building height. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to detect that. And to detect that, we've got the satellite image in here before the fires. We've got the post-satellite image after the fires. So we can determine here if it was destroyed or not in the fires. Only if you appear in here destroyed or damaged will you be eligible. So if it's not damaged in the fire, you won't be eligible to use this system at this point. There's a layer in here which shows you from the county all of the properties that have been damaged. So you can see there's one here, this one hasn't been damaged over here. So you'll start to see that come through. There is a legend in here that destroyed, major damage, minor damage, affected. If it's coming up as no damage in here, when you submit it through, it'll get rejected back and say that this is only eligible for ones that have been affected. What we're then doing here is that we're bringing in the data from the county on the building height in here. So if you turn on 3D buildings, you should be able to get from the LiDAR image how high that building was before. Some people don't have the previous building heights and the previous building drawings that were there. I know in LA City, they've got a lot of records on file, but what we're doing here is we're doing a guidance bit here, and we're doing an estimate to see, are you within, the height plus 10%? So what you can do here is you can grab that main building, 18 feet. It should fill it in automatically. If it doesn't, you'll just turn on 3D buildings to find that in here. And that'll go in there, and that'll be the baseline, which it checks the height against. This is checking, in this case for LA County, are you in the Altadena Community Standards District? Because that'll apply different rules if you're in there or you're not in there. And it has been damaged. So you would then click next, and then you'll be wanting to upload a PDF, and that PDF you want to upload your drawing set. Now, what we've put here is 5 to 10 business days because we're still in training. In reality, like once we're out of training mode, you'll get your results within 24 hours. And we've seen some already, you're getting the results within 2 hours. So we've put some buffer in there just to, depending on the volume that come through. When we first launched it up, I think within the first week, we got like over 100 submissions come through in the first week as we're still training it up. So there's a lot of submissions coming through. So those were taking between 5 to 10 days to get back. But more recently, we've been getting them back, either same day or within hours. So just put the PDF through here. What we're also finding is that we're finding new edge cases as we're going through. So as part of the training, it helps to have a lot of submissions coming through because you identify the edge cases and what goes on there. So you'll simply click PDF, upload your PDF, and then it will start to go through that process of, it'll say, we're waiting and then it'll tell you the updates of when it's done. When it's complete, you'll get an email saying it's complete. And what you'll see is that, I'll give you some examples in here. You'll get this little card in here saying it's complete, and it's going to tell you what's in here. So we're going to pull this one up here, and the first page you're going to see is the summary page, which tells you the clauses, how many passed, how many failed. So this one is LA County like for like, and what you're going to see here is that you're going to start to see this come through here, and you're going to see these checklists come over here. So like for like replacement, as you click through these, this is where you start to see it. So what you're going to see here is that the first one here, you should not exceed the floor area by more than 10%. So this is going to pick up off your drawings, no matter how they come in, whatever format, it pulls apart the drawings and it isolates them out, and it takes out the measurements of the drawings. So what you're seeing here is the total proposed floor area is less than the maximum you can do, 2,400 feet. And it's at this because it adds it up. And what you're seeing here is that we're also detecting the previous floor area from the fire image if you haven't provided it on your drawing. So we can get an estimate on what that previous one was based on the imagery there. What you're also seeing here is that you should not exceed the floor area by more than 10%. So this one is looking at the floor area of the levels. This one is looking at the size. So we're looking at the original shape, and we're looking at the footprint in here. So when we switch over to the site plan, you're going to see in blue what was the previous footprint, and then you're going to see in green what's the proposed footprint. So you're going to get this comparison of previous versus proposed in here. If you have a detached garage, you're going to get additional checks. So this is going to do the same, but it's going to check the previous garage versus the new garage. So you're going to get the same type of checks here. We're going to break this down in here. So you either get 10% additional or 200 square feet, whatever's higher. So in this case, 10% would only give you 40 square feet, but you're going to get 200 square feet here, additional allowance in here. So that gets a pass. Then if you've got an ADU, we're also looking at that as well. So what you'll see here is that we're going to pick up the ADU, and the ADU is going to go to state rules on the ADU. So you're going to see what's the minimum floor area of the ADU and the minimum size of the habitable room inside there. So it's going to check that. Then you're going to also see the maximum area of an ADU, and it's going to check that as well to make sure that you're in there. Then we're going to switch over, and you can go down here to see the different checks over into height restrictions. And what you're going to see here is that based on that height from we're detecting from the previous building, you're going to get that line in there, which is the previous, plus a 10% reference line. And this is going to check from the grade to the top of the roof across all elevations. Are you within that envelope and that height restriction in there? So you're picking up the roof, we're getting the grade line, and we're checking, are you within that height restriction? This will also do it for the garage, and that'll be at a different level. So that's at a lower level, and that's saying that it's within the 10% in there. So we're clear in there. If you then go over to, this is in the Altadena Community District, you're going to get additional rules in here. So in addition to the 10%, you also have the standards in here, which is the Altadena standards, which is 35 feet. So if you fail on the 10%, but you pass on the maximum building height in here, you're going to get a pass over here. And then once you go over to the ADUs, you can click down the bottom here, and you can see also the height for the ADU, which will be based on the 25 feet, which is on the state regulations there. So then we switch over to setback compliance. So what we want to do here is we want to check that you're within the side setbacks. But what you get here is that you get the opportunity to maintain your non-compliance. So if I look at this one here, this is the previous building, that blue one. So that previous building cut into this side setback. So you get to keep that there as well. So if your proposed building was in that side setback there, you wouldn't fail. You'd actually be compliant in here. It's only if you further encroached into that you would get a non-compliance in there. So this auto detects and removes from the side setbacks or the rear setbacks anywhere where you have actually previously encroached. And then it checks additional things. So the detached garage has to be 75 feet from the front lot line. No more than 50% of the rear yard should be building. So we picked that up too. And we've also added in this bit, which is the backup space from the garage. So we're checking that a 26-foot backup space is required out from the garage. Minor relocation. So this takes the setbacks that you had with the encroachment, and it lets you move, I believe, 20% in each direction. So it's giving you a blue zone in here where you could move that building around, which will be considered a minor relocation. And we're also checking if you've got multiple buildings, the distance between those buildings in there. And that's your like for like assessment for LA County. So you're seeing there's quite a lot of checks in here that's checking if you're going there. And then you kind of get this report, and then you can download a PDF of that. So you can download the PDF report, or you can copy and paste this in and let the county know that you've done this assessment. The county will have access to this assessment in the back end. So if you let the county know that you've done an eCheck report, they're going to have access to this to do it. We're looking at putting a link in the submission portal so that you can actually start to see that come through, and you can add this reference into your submission as you're going through. What you'll see is on some other ones is that, you know, for LA City, it's similar height, footprint expansion, substantially the location, but you've got some projections in LA City in here. So what you'll start to see here is that we also check how much you project into the proposed, into the yard setbacks. So you get a few extra things in here. If you click show all sections, you'll see that there are other bits that could be checked if it's relevant. So chimneys, bay windows, porches. So there'll be other things that could be checked in here depending on what's relevant or not. But you'll see that regardless of what you do in what city you do, the look and feel is the same across all of these different ones in here. And then I think if you go over to something like this is a zoning one for LA County, you're going to see there's a whole lot more checks. So if you can do like for like, it's a lot less checks, it's a lot easier. If you do a zoning check, as you're aware, in LA County, LA City, there's a lot more to look at here. So what you'll start to see here is that, you know, there's information around, oops, that's refreshing again. I'll get that set up. There's a lot more checks in here that you do have to look at. Projections into yards, cantilevered roofs, you know, so we're looking at the roof line coming into the yards. We're looking at the distance from the side. We're looking at the height of those cantilevered roofs. We're looking at the vertical supports. You know, are they in a required yard? We're looking at porches. How much do they project? We're looking at covered patios. You know, is it too close in here? You know, there's a lot more checks. You know, this is coming more than 50% into the backyard, into the rear yard there. We're looking at covered car parking spaces, internal spaces, tree requirements. This is one that we're finding, you know, a lot of people aren't out putting the trees on their drawings, which is getting a fail in here. In LA County in particular, you need direct site access, not via the driveway. So you need to demonstrate that there's a pathway coming into the main house. That'll fail over there. So there's a lot of checks in here that are coming through that are going to be important here. And, you know, in LA County in particular, you start to get this choose your own adventure where you've got to pass a certain amount of checks to pass. So in this case, we show you which ones you pass, and then underneath, you can click on the individual ones to check why you passed or failed on this. What we're also seeing a lot of the time is people aren't putting the materials on the facade. So there are some checks on here that check about materials. So you want to make sure that you get materials on the facade. Some things may not be checkable at this point. We've tagged them as they require manual review. That would just require the city or county staff to have a look at them. But a lot of it can be checked. Landscaping areas, vehicle distance in here. So you're seeing that there's quite a lot of things in here that are getting checked. So what I might do is I might just leave it at that for the moment, and I might switch over and we might take some questions, but it's just a little bit of under the hood of how this is working. And hopefully that starts to demystify what you're going to see when you put your plans through. One big challenge we're seeing is that like people are putting in just the floor plan and no elevations, no site plan. You're not going to get a result if you do that, because as you can see, we need to check the heights and the distances in between buildings, the yard setback. So to get a full result from this, you're going to need to submit a full set of plans, which is site plan, floor plans, elevations. If you submit less, we may still be able to do it, but it will be leveraging the GIS heights as well. So the more information you put in, the better result you're going to get. And just a note on this, that it's a guidance checklist to help you prepare it and then surface up the information better. If there's anything that you think has been checked incorrectly or you'd like to challenge or that, like, you can email us directly, but you can just go straight to the county and the city, and you can still work through it with them and say, hey, I think this one's in my case, this is the reason why it's like this, and they'll work with you through it. But yeah.
Ben, thank you so much. This looks excellent. Real quick, a question for me, and then we'll go to Pooja for a moment. But I'm wondering, you're showing us the software for City of LA and County of LA, and you mentioned PDF. Does Archistar have any other systems where you're submitting a building information model?
Yeah, so we've got a version where you can submit it directly from AutoCAD, directly from Rhino. We're about to release the version where you can submit it directly from Revit. So there is that pathway if someone wants to process it and do it as they're designing. We'd be more than happy to run sessions. And I know in the city of Vancouver, that's what they're doing. They're getting architects to do it themselves, submit directly.
Okay.
What you need to do is, the computer does not understand, what is a bedroom necessarily, what is, the footprint of the house. So there are certain things that need to be tagged correctly. And that's the process that you just have to add that extra information. And our plugin on top of AutoCAD, Rhino, Revit, it tells you what metadata needs to be tagged on so that it understands what it needs to check.
Okay, excellent. Because in the long term, we'd love to get City of LA, and LA County beyond just PDFs, but that's aspiration. Pooja,
Yeah.
you have a couple of questions, and then we'll go to Tony and Aaron.
Yeah, Ben, this is fantastic. Thank you. Is there information on mapping for buildings that are older structures? So Google Earth shows you, is it using Google Earth LiDAR from before to create sort of that height and massing, or is it relying on
So
recording?
we're relying on the LA County LiDAR, so it's their official LiDAR. And we're also, and this is part of the testing and training, that we're also using the assessor's record as well. So if they've got the previous footprint captured on the assessor's record, what we've looked at there is where we're trying to give the benefit of the doubt. So it's either the assessor's record, or if you do have the original footprint, on your CAD, and that's slightly bigger, like we'll go based on what's the more lenient version of it, because the assessor's record, it may be measured earlier. So we're being lenient on the AI to check, you know, and compare and say what's the better option for you. At the end of the day, it'll still be the final decision from the county or the city. They may have updated better records on plan, but all we can do at this bit is it's mass, you know, assessment. We've got to go based on a base point, and you know, we're going to use the GIS that's provided from the county. It's not Google Earth. It's the county records.
Sure. And so here I'm going to go into nuance, and hopefully Tony will help me on this as well, because she had a similar situation. We asked the LA city official, because we were sort of changing the footprint, but staying within the setbacks, but keeping the same criteria and same square footage of the like for like, but we were changing a little bit of what that footprint looked like. Now, those definitions might change for LA County versus LA City. And so is the platform able to make that determination and not stop the process from moving forward or accepting sort of the
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and the platform is quite flexible in that case. So what it does is it takes the previous footprint, it sees where it's encroached into the side yards or the front yard or the rear yard, and it carves that out. So you're allowed to work in the same place that you have previously encroached. You can't encroach anymore. So if you were like already encroached a bit into the backyard and you say, I want to push this right back, like that'll come up as a fail. But if you work within what you've already done, you can move that building around, you can change the footprint. Like, so it's not going to fail you on that. Like, it gives you that flexibility as long as you don't exceed more than 10% of the previous footprint. So you're free to change that footprint around. And as long as you don't exceed 10% higher than what you previously had, you're able to do that. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in there. And if you're uncertain of how the county or the city is going to check it, this is a really good way of going in, because we've worked with the city and the county on these rules. This is probably the best indication, you know, of what that interpretation is. There's probably still some room for working with the county or the city once you've got through this, but this would be a very good indication, you know, on the interpretation of that rule.
Okay, great. So
yeah,
we don't have to press submit. You can upload, check, and keep doing that until
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And you can submit twice, like three, like, so if you push it up and it's like, oh, I'm not happy with that, you know, I want to change things around, like you can go and modify that and re-upload it and get a different result.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Aaron, you had a quick question, then we'll go to Tony. Tony, do you want to jump in first, and then we'll come back to Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, following up a little bit on Pooja's. Thank you, guys. This is great. One question is there, and I guess if you can resubmit it a few times, it doesn't really matter, but is there a list of the items that will be checked before you submit it? So then when we're developing our package, we know what it's going to be checking.
Yeah. We haven't done like a formal like list of these are the things that are going to be checked. It will depend also on what you submit. So it's smart in the sense that if you submit an ADU, like, and you can propose to put an ADU in, it's going to add in all the checks on ADU.
Sure.
If you have a detached garage or you don't have a detached garage, it's going to change the checks, and you know, it might check between buildings. So it'll vary. It's smart that it varies based on what you're doing. Like if you're in Altadena district, you can get different rules to if you're not. So I don't think there is a standard checklist. But like I get it, like there's like
really just the planning code. The
it's the planning
checklist.
code, right? Yeah. So
Okay.
but I would just recommend putting it through and like seeing what comes up, you know. It doesn't check everything at this point. Like we're still building out additional checks. We would also love feedback from the community to say, hey, we know you can check this, like, why don't you check that bit? You know, that's similar to what you've already done. So if there's anything you're seeing that, you know, we could add in the checks, we definitely want the feedback. If there's any ways that you think, you know, the way that it's being checked could be checked better, based on your experience, we'd also love to hear that too. Like, that we've launched it out in training, like, where, you know, it's a very new system for the county, for the city, for the architects, like, for everyone. So we are open to suggestions and looking for that feedback.
And then one other quick question is, I know it's checking planning, so it's checking the architectural drawings, but if we're going to be taking the results and submitting it to the city or the county with the package that was submitted, I'm thinking about like anything that gets changed in the drawings. Like if we didn't submit structural and we get structural back and we have to change an overhang or something, like how
Yeah.
does that?
Yeah, so there's two ways to think about it. One is that, like, you know, it's the initial pass to get the quality up and, like, make sure you've done as much as you can to submit it, and then you're going to go through the process, you know. But maybe there's less back and forth because you've ironed out a few of these things before you submit it up. So the other thing is we're adding in more and more checks. So they're about to launch out the essential building code check. So that's going to be IRC, like CRC checks on, like, a whole bunch of things for building code. So you can run the zoning check and then the building code check and make sure that, okay, I'm doing pretty good on both of these, you know, I'm in a really good position. So it will be, but you don't need to come, like, if you're going through the process then with the county or the city, like, you don't need to come back and recheck it in Archistar. It's kind of
just doing like the
getting you
big
to a point.
picture.
Yeah, and then you'll work out those issues directly with the city and county.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, you'd asked a few questions. Are you on the call yet? So while we wait for Aaron, we'll go to Damir. Damir Rahman, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. Yeah, I just had a quick question. So it does check for zoning, but does it check for the building code compliance?
Yeah, so we're about to launch that out. So I think that'll come out maybe next week or the week after. It'll be two different checks. So you'll submit it for zoning, then you'll submit it the same. You can submit the same plan set for if you've got it all together. I believe in LA City, they said, like, most architects submit it with the detail for building code check in it. I think in LA County, it's a split process. Like, you do your zoning and then you do. So yeah, depending on how you work, like, you could submit the same file to both, like, zoning and building code, or if you've got a different set, you could do different checks.
Okay. Yeah, and with regards, quick question with regards to the code data, is it manually curated or there is some kind of agent that scrapes the current codes and makes it updated?
It's curated with the city and the county. So we've worked with the city and the county to make sure that we've got all the main checks that they believe are the essential checks. If there are additional checks that are coming up, like an example is the backup space, you know, we coded in all the rules around the garage, the detached garage. And then, like, this is why it's important to get more submissions in. You know, one of the submissions come in and the garage was moved, and they're like, oh, that's going to be a problem with the backup space. And it's like, well, where is that bit of the, okay, also in this guidance note over here. So we brought that in. So there may be things that aren't explicitly, like, there that maybe come over time. So I think more checks will be added over time and refined, but that's why we're in training, and the county and the city, like, they've been super helpful in refining it and going through edge cases.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and sometimes if your one takes a bit longer to get back, it could be an edge case where we're trying to figure out, like, this is something unique that we haven't seen before, that we're getting guidance also on how it should interpret.
So Ben, I don't know if anyone from the city of LA is on the call right now, but, you know, eventually zoning plan check, which is currently under building and safety, will be shifted over to city planning. And that hopefully will sort of clarify the distinction between zoning plan check and building plan check with two different sets of professionals so that you don't have to be all inclusive. But
yeah, like it can be split, you know, like the way that we do it, like we kind of have them as separate checks. So for our system, like it's not gonna, even if you've got it combined on the same drawing, but yeah, depending on how the city operates, like if it's a combined thing or it splits later on, like we'll be able to, like one team would get that check, one team would get that check. So it would just split naturally.
Thank you. Karen Najarian, welcome to the call.
Thank you. My question is like city and county, are the people who are doing the plan checking, are they also using Archistar, or is this only for us to do like a pre-check before we submit, and is it integrated in any way?
So they'll have access to use the pre-check. So when you submit in, you'll let them know that you've done a pre-check. That helps them streamline their process too. So if they get this and all the information surfaced up, it makes it a lot faster for them to do their review. So they'll be able to use this to streamline their, right? We're still figuring out what's the best integration. Like they're probably going to put in like a field in the submission form where it says include your eCheck ID so that they can use it as part of it. But yeah, the idea is that it'll be used as part of the process, which helps streamline makes their review faster.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then Pooja asked another question, essentially about all the additional planning code requirements, the geotechnical, this is.
I can do that. So
Yeah.
this is an example because I already know this, or, I went to the city and they said, well, your ADU, it's new, it's not within like for like. So you need to get a special report by a geotechnical engineer that is X distance away from the bluff. So let's say I submit, I have a geotechnical report, but I'm not within the like for like because I'm exceeding the height limit. Does the system sort of prevent me from submitting, or does it create a red flag? And am I able to submit it? And they can then say, oh yeah, she's already submitted XYZ. So I'm just trying to figure out if.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. And like, I get like the line of questioning again. Yeah, if you get a red flag on ours, like you absolutely can still submit it with supporting evidence and other stuff. And like the county will consider it as an application. They'll review all that material. So this is going to go based on those checks that are black and white. And if you look at the ADU checks, it's that state-based rules, which is minimum areas, maximum areas, setback from the yards, distance from the buildings, maximum height. So you're going to get all those standard checks. And that if you've exceeded one of them, but you've got justification, you've got a engineer's report or something that's going to justify why you've done that, you can still go down that process and do that. So yeah. This won't stop you working with the county or the city to achieve what you need to achieve. It's just going to surface up, based on the rules out of that, out of those, the black and white rules. Like, did you meet those requirements or not?
Thank you.
Yeah, I encourage everyone on the call, if you have any questions, let us know. I have 1,000 questions, and primarily I'm fascinated by this technology, and what I'd really love to know from your point of view or from your experience, especially as you work with different municipalities, maybe you have insight on which jurisdiction is really doing plan check most effectively. Here in California, the various agencies that we should be modeling City of LA and County of LA to follow. Are you getting that insight?
I actually had a question. Is it me, Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was watching chat. I didn't notice you called my name until after the fact.
Yeah.
My question has nothing to do with plan check. I don't have anything, and I haven't had anything for quite some time going through building departments. And it sounds to me like your primary client is building departments, and we're just kind of users that are in that loop. What I was kind of envisioning, because I'm not a huge fan of reading code books, and especially now that they're super duper long and complicated. is to use it as a tool to actually learn the code. And as other people maybe alluded to, keep up with the updates in the codes. Is there anybody exploring that? Or are you just busy with Los Angeles, which is very important to do right now? Is there any
Yeah, it's a good point. And, you know, like the primary goal here and like what we've been asked and tasked to do is to fast track the permits for the rebuild and get everyone back on their feet faster. So like that is the primary goal here. But the way that we've designed the application, the software, I really do see it as an education tool as well. So when if you're submitting to a new city, or even if you're working with the city but you're not familiar with the updates to the code, you know, this should guide you and give you some feedback into how that calculation's been made. And because we work with the city and the county and like we're working with the municipalities direct, the way that that calculation's interpreted, like they've tested and validated it, and they've given their feedback on how that should be calculated. So you're getting a really good indication of what the city or county thinks, you know, that how that rule should come out. There will always be edge cases, and you know, there are a lot of architects here on the call that, you know, everyone's creative, everyone's pushing the envelope, like you're doing unique stuff. So there will always be edge cases, but this should get like 90% of the use cases. It should be able to pick up and give you an indication of what that answer should be. So yes, you could use it as an education tool, and maybe it's something with the AIA and the universities that we actually look at what does a program look like, where, you know, maybe it's a tool that can be taught even for the next generation. Like this is how you can test your knowledge.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I have so many questions, so I'm waiting for others to join the call that might have something in. But in the meantime, I'm wondering if you've put any sort of reverse engineering to this, you know, based on the complexities of the code, maybe some designs that Archistar recommends.
We haven't done that. It's a good idea, but we're working with the Foothill catalog and a few others that are putting up standard designs that are meeting the code, and we're getting their designs eCheck ready. So you can have the design that meets building code and like a lot of the zoning elements, but you got to put it onto a site, and then you get all the contextual elements. So we're working with them to make sure that their standard designs you know, are eCheck ready, and they come out compliant, so you get a fast result. I think that you know, if you look at the future of where this is going, you know, you now have these tools where you can do it inside your CAD or in your Revit, and you could test. I think you could start to experiment and see what works better, what doesn't work. So as part of your design thinking and your design practice, you could actually start to come up with your own set of designs that you can be really confident, you know, I know how to meet the rules here, and I know how to get creative, but get these through, you know, which is good.
Yeah, thank
the
you.
other thing is that probably another good thing is that we can start over time to get an indication of where people are missing information or things are not coming up consistently. So in LA County, a good example is that they've got some rules around the amount of trees that need to be planted, or and a lot of site plans we're seeing don't have the trees on the site plan. So it may be that you're waiting to put that onto a landscape plan or something like that, but it'd be great to include those on the site plan, because we're getting a lot of people fail on that particular clause because it's just not visible on the plans. So we should be able to give some guidance on hints and tips for stuff that we're seeing is missing, or, you know, commonly missing, that I don't think without this type of technology, it's hard to see those trends.
Okay. Well, and then also there's you know, all the various site planning software tools, mostly AI driven. Are you sort of coming together with a suite of other you know, sort of maybe they're competitors at this point, but I would imagine they all start to work with, you know, complementary solutions.
Yeah, we're we're on pretty friendly terms with most people like working in this space, like in prop tech or, you know, generative design or compliance. So I think like it's such a big challenge to solve. There's so many aspects of it. So, you know, wherever we can collaborate or work with others, like we do that. We do a lot of work in the generative design space as well, in data analysis too. So, you know, it's this, I think that, you know, the better everyone can work together, you know, the better chance we have at pushing the whole industry forward and solving big problems.
Okay. Well, you know, there's an organization, several AIA members started it, and it's called the Innovation Design Consortium. And I put this in the chat, and I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they're creating in addition to several other things, they're creating a sort of a resource library. So anyone can sort of borrow, and this will be more for building code compliance. Well, you know, so kit of parts, you know, like, so not everyone has to redesign the perfect stairwell over and over again. So that would be a resource I would recommend everyone to start to look into. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them or not.
I haven't come across it, but that's a great thing that I would definitely pick up and have a look at.
Because ideally we'd have a lending library of, you know, all the building components so that we don't have to constantly.
100%. The other thing I was going to say is that I saw here, like when tagging materials and elevation, does it struggle to recognize tags? I think as long as you've got like tags indicating the different materials, then and you know what those materials are, it should be able to pick it up and detect it. Is when you don't put any information about materials, like you just have a blank wall and like we don't know what that is, and you can't tell there's any variation. Some cities it doesn't matter. LA County in particular, like they've got a very specific clauses around materials and what percentage of materials, you know, and is there variation. So if you're not putting that in, the other thing is that they've got very particular materials that they talk about. We're kind of picking up all the common materials that we're seeing and working with the county to see if which ones are eligible, which ones aren't. But you know, there's rules around like what stucco you use and like what grade of stucco you use. So like indicating the grade is good. But we are picking up, you know, if it's indicated, if it's like a smooth stucco or a rough stucco, you know, based on the description that you've got there. So yeah, a lot of people don't put that level of detail in, but if you are putting something like smooth stucco, you know, it'll go through the system and get a tick on that.
Thank you. Jesse, you have a question here about multifamily.
Yeah, I understand the focus is on the fire rebuilds, which is great, but is there a plan to expand to multifamily?
Yeah, like absolutely. We already do that with other jurisdictions, you know, in different cities. This like for the LA rebuild, like it's our task has been around rebuilding like the single family homes, but yeah, we've done multifamily with other jurisdictions, and we'd love to do more with LA. But yeah, again, the focus right at this point is let's get these homes rebuilt.
Yeah, definitely.
It will sort of on that question, any of the multifamilies that are, you know, unfortunately lost in the fire, are those sites, you know, part of this program yet, or do you?
I think with those ones, like just because of the level of complexity and like you just go straight to the city or the county with them. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not going through this process at the moment. That could change in the future, but at the moment it's yeah, it's about all the individual houses at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you are like, if there's a, you know, a cohort of like multifamily designers that, you know, architects that want to that want this technology in there, you know, like with the AIA, like it's always helpful to put that voice up and you know, say like, this is what we'd love to see this. That always helps.
Well, you know, earlier to my question about lessons learned from other jurisdictions, as you gain that insight, we would love to amplify that perspective, because here at AI Los Angeles, we've been working for, I would say, at least 10 years trying to show recommendations to improve development services, especially around plan.
Yeah. I think that if you look at what LA City and LA County have done, and Malibu has come on board as well, which is great. So they'll be launching up soon too. They have taken the step forward with this type of technology. They've been super responsive. They've been very cooperative. They've got it out there sooner than later. It really feels like they're making steps in the right direction, and wanting to support the community. So I think like, kudos to them. Like, they're really doing good things here. And I always say with any of this stuff, it's a collaborative effort. Like the city, the county, like, they've got to want to make the change, which it seems like they do in this case. The community, the architects, the designers, like, they've got to want to get involved and use the technology too. So it's a real, like, to really make this work very successfully, like, it's everyone getting involved, and we've seen some great things from this community, which is really good.
Well, thank you. We're delighted to have you involved. I see that David Waite is on the call as well. David is with ULI, who was helpful with the self-certification initiative. David, do you want to say a few words before we may have just lost him?
Oh, I'm still here, Will.
Hi, David.
Yeah, great to see you, Will. And Ben, thank you so much for spending the time to go over the technology and get everybody sort of accustomed to it. In my view, Will, I think this is one of these circumstances where you learn by using it, right? You start using it, you learn more, you develop more expertise, you figure out the bugs, you figure out where it might be challenging and what might need to be fixed or changed. But my recommendation is start using it. Just get out there and start using this tool, because I think it's going to make a huge difference. That the tool combined with the self-certification opportunity, and as Ben pointed out, the city and the county have really stepped up, and I think they're really excited about the opportunity, not just for the single-family rebuild, but also in terms of larger expediting of planning initiatives. So I think this is all really super promising, and I really appreciate the hard work that everybody's doing, the curiosity, the intellectual energy we're all putting into this, because it's gonna pay huge dividends. But I realize it's daunting because it's new, right? And everybody's trying to figure it out. But Ben, I can't thank you enough for everything you're doing to help educate the community and getting this tool out there and really getting people accustomed and more comfortable with using it, because I really think it's a confidence issue to get everybody comfortable with it.
I totally agree with that. And I didn't bring it up, but the self-certification pathway, like, I think this is a real opportunity. And I know that if you can demonstrate, hey, look, I've done my best efforts to be compliant. Here's my checklist. I've ticked off all these boxes. I'm going to self-certify. I think that is going to really help that process. And you've got that avenue now to do that. I think it's something that should definitely, this group in particular, as you start using that tool and you start getting used to it and comfortable with it, I think it is an avenue that you should really be considering. Like, can I do these self-certifications? Because that's a real value add to your clients. That it's like, I've done the design, I've done my official checks. I'm happy with the compliance I've got here. I'm going to go down that path and offer the self-certification. So yeah, I think in combination, it's a really good avenue, and you've got that available now, which is good.
Well, thank you, everyone. We're right at 1 hour. We can ask a few more questions if anyone has them, but I also want to be cognizant of everyone's time and give you back that extra 30 minutes if that's helpful.
I have one last question, Ben. Can we just submit by a platform, or do we have to go to the city's platform to hit submit?
Those links are there to upload it and get your report, but you're going to have to still officially submit to the county. So once you get the report from us, you still into the city, you still have to submit your application to them
From their platform.
from their platform. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
we're just down.
where you can just download it and include the report. We're working on that integration step where you could just copy the ID and paste it in. That'd be the ultimate way to do it. But at the moment, just submit as you normally would. You can also email them and say, hey, just letting you know, I've done my eCheck report. I've uploaded. You can upload it with it, you know. So, but yeah, we will get that integration piece a bit nicer as we go through it. It was a very quick setup and launch, so we're still working out a few things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Well, with that, I will, you know, celebrate this moment here. Give everyone a big round of applause. Our you know, our true, genuine appreciation to Ben and David from Archistar, and for everyone that has lost their home during these tragic wildfires. You know, the AIA Los Angeles chapter is here for you. You know, continue to reach out to us and we will provide more resources. Next week, this session will be a very similar conversation. Maybe we'll take an extra step to go deeper if we have a new audience or a repeat audience. So with that,
Cool.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and maybe you can, if you've got some submissions, like submit them before that next one, and then bring your questions.
Perfect idea.
It'd be great. Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah. So, all right, great to meet you all, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thanks,
much.
Will. Thanks, Ben.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.